Hey guys, welcome to Spanning the Need with Coach John Collins and Josh Upshire from Badger. How you guys doing tonight?
Great. How are you?
Good, thanks.
So we talk a lot about what's going on in high school basketball as well as during this pandemic, and this is our second try as we come back from the first one. We were having some bad sound and stuff like that. So we're trying to really make a difference and really make it a little bit better. So we've looked at a lot of different stuff. So we're trying to do a very good knowledge of spreading the word and really working with our coaches and seeing what's going on behind the scenes. You see a lot of these coaches that can't have contact pretty much. And that's been the big thing right now. You guys have not had coaching in person, pretty much by either Zoom or stuff like that. So, and we'll get into a little bit of that. So what I'd like to talk about is, so Josh, we talked a little bit before about how you got started. How did you get started in coaching?
As I said before, I graduated in 2002 from Badger. I then went to Allegheny College for a year to play basketball. After my first year there, I decided that coaching might be my next way to go. So I went and started coaching for Cody Betts at Badger. And I coached some youth stuff there, moved up to 8th grade, up to the varsity assistant job, left Badger and went to Ursuline for 4 years under Keith Gunther. And then from there, I went to Howland for a year. And then I was the JV coach at Liberty under Dan Bubon, and after that, I got my first high school gig at Badger back home.
Now we talk about that, and you have about 3-4 years under your belt at Badger.
Mm-hmm. 4.
And we talk about that where we have this notion of a lot has changed over the past maybe 5 years with coaches. You got a lot of younger coaches. And you got a lot of guys that have been in the business a long time. So you really have no middle ground of coaches. So you have a very big turnover. And I think that rolls over to Coach John Collins. Coach, you've been around a long time. I mean, you've got a variety of experience. And one thing we talked about before is you have a lot of assistant coaches that have become head coaches. And so tell us, Coach, how you actually got started in coaching basketball. A lot of people may not know this.
Well, I always knew I was going to be a basketball coach. I didn't even, how they give you that thing in the yearbook, write down all these things about future things. They put down that I wanted to be the world's greatest basketball coach, which I failed miserably at. But I did become a basketball coach. And so I got a job at Brookfield 3 days before school started. So I was coaching 9th grade basketball for Larry Seifert from Braceville, who's a wonderful coach. And I was with him for 5 years, and we won 4 district championships. So I thought, well, this is pretty easy. But we also had athletes up the wazoo that were some of the best athletes this area's ever had. And I thought that's just the way it was always going to be. Well, it hasn't been, and it won't be, because we had 7 Division I players on our team.
Wow.
Most of them were football players, but some were basketball players too. So, at a small school like Brookfield, that's unheard of. They won a state championship 28-0 football. They went to 4 regionals in a row, and went to Columbus once. So it was an odd thing.
Now, John, just out of curiosity, how many assistant coaches that have been under you that are now head coaches over your time?
I'm waiting to see if this one gets hired in the coming week. That would be the 57th.
Oh, wow.
Which means I've ruined a lot of people's lives and doomed them to a life of poorness. As Josh could tell you.
Well, and I think the thing about it is that you don't do it, like, as you know, I'm a basketball referee.
Right.
So you don't do it because of the money. We're not the NBA or college. You do it because you love the game. So the notion of, and I have to ask this question, and John, you'll probably yell at me down the road as if how many years you've been in? I don't know if I think you mentioned it, but how many years have you been in coaching right now?
I started in 1973, so this is my 40. I think it's my 48th year. I kind of lose track a little bit there. Not all as a head coach. For 8 years, I was an assistant coach.
And that says a lot, because you've been to a variety of different genres, different divisions. So how do divisions stack up? You've been at D2, D1, D3, or D4, or is it pretty much all the same? I mean, at the end of the day, you're pretty much doing it because of the kids. I mean,
well, the divisions don't really stack up. When we were at Canfield, we were the smallest D1 school in the state, so we were playing against McKinley and Glen Oak, and you can't beat 4 of those teams. You might beat 1 or 2 of them. You're not going to beat 4 of them. So you're not winning any district championships at that size. That's Dover, I'll tell you that. But in Division II, we did much better at Division II because that was the size we were. And in Division III, our tournament, Josh can tell you, our tournament's been pretty brutal down there in Salem. And we haven't, we've been a seed for 4 of the last 5 years and haven't got through yet. So it's not easy.
Well, and I think that you're at South Range right now, which I think is a low D2, high D3.
It's a mid upper middle D3.
Okay, and then we have Bradger, that is pretty much a D4, D3, D4. Correct me if I'm wrong, Coach. So
Yep.
How does that play into like what you see now at other programs that you've been at? Is that a good fit for you? Is that something that you've seen a very difficult trend that a lot of schools are now dropping, or a lot of schools are now losing enrollment? How does that look on your end?
Well, I mean, for us, when I graduated in 2002, we were D3 on the cusp of D4. My junior year, we were D4. My senior year, we were D3. And, we're pretty much in D4 now. I mean, our numbers are low enough that we're D4 now. But, I mean, for our area, D4 is not really easy. I mean, you have the McDonald's, you have the Bristols, you have the JFKs, Richmond Heights, Andrews Osborne, Cornerstone. I mean, it's still loaded for D4, but
sometimes Springfield.
Yeah, and it's Springfield sometimes. So for us, with our conference, we have 16 conference games, so we try to beef it up with the non-conference. We added McDonald and Camel in Ursuline this year. We have Champion, Heartland Christian. We try to beef up the non-conference schedule to get us ready for that tournament, because we know you got to be ready to play. It's not really easy, especially being D4.
Oh, and we know that because it seems that if you're a D1, or there's no teams now, at least in the Mahoning Valley, or at least the east side of the state, that are D1 right now in basketball, if we look at it.
I think about 4, only 4 or 5.
Yeah, there's not at all. And I think those, like you guys, we have a very good of D2, D3, D4 schools in this area, where you have the tournaments at Struthers, you have the tournaments at Harding, where you have those different. And I think it all comes back to is preparing for those games for the following year. And certain coaches schedule certain things. And we'll go to Josh real quick. Josh, we know that last 3 years you're 16 and 4, or 10 and 14, 19 and 6, 14 and 10. The last 3 years, you lost against Bristol in March of 8 of this past year, and your schedule, you have a very big conference. Yeah. So that makes it hard to get prepared for the tournament. So how do you guys, as with everything going on with the pandemic, what are some of your challenges going forward now, since we're still at home right now? How does your team deal with getting together? What do you do as a coach from that standpoint to get your kids ready because we can't have no contact.
Right. For us, we had the last couple of years, we were fortunate enough to have some senior lane teams with the graduation. We go back to not really inexperience, but we're going to be younger than we have been in the past. So we rely on. We have Zoom meetings once a week. I have a Zoom meeting scheduled for tomorrow with my guys. As a matter of fact, my guys do workouts. I have a spreadsheet for them that they do workouts on. We use an app called Home Court where there's drills and agility stuff on there that they get on and do. It actually records them doing it. So, I have an opportunity to be able to see them actually do the drill and critique them on that type of thing. So, just staying in touch once a week and make sure that they're continuing to, at least get shots up and those types of things is the best we can do at this point.
Well, and I think that you over the last how tough is your conference now moving forward? I know it's up and down. I mean, I had a game that I refereed. You played Wyndham, and the final score was like 98-79, and and Wyndham shot 38 3-pointers and made them. It was like a game at the Y. It's a pickup game. So how do you deal with those types of transitions when you have that, and how do you schedule?
For us, like I said, our conference is for being a small conference, a small school conference, it's still pretty competitive. I mean, you have Bristol, who year in and year out is really good. Wyndham, Coach Hill always has them good. PV is a bigger school for our conference, and just to be able to compete with them and beat them a few times is good. They return pretty much their whole team this year. So. But we still have, Matthews is in the right direction, and Coach Weimer has them doing great things, and they're bringing back a lot of their team. We have Maplewood, who was young last year, coming back. Lordstown brings back a lot of their team. Everybody. If you look at the rosters from last year, it was a lot of sophomore lane group. I mean, Bristol had a big senior group, and other than that, a lot of teams were sophomores. So, the conference will be able to help us get ready and get prepared for the tournament. And like I said before, we rely on that tough non-conference schedule to get us going as well.
Well, and you guys I think you guys have stayed in pretty much the same district for basketball the last couple of years, and there's been a lot of up and down on people moving around, and I think that goes back to John, where, Coach, you have one hell of a district. I mean, in and out, year in year, it doesn't matter what you do. The last 3 years, you went 22-2, 17-7, and 16-9 in the past 3 years, and 2 of those years, you lost to Canton Central Catholic in the final. In I think it would be probably districts, and if I'm correct, and then Waterloo. Now, how do you rate your league as well as schedule to get ready for the conference, or I should say get ready for the basketball tournament?
First of all, our schedule was ridiculous as far as preparing us. We played 3 of the best Division III teams in the area. We played Springfield, beat them, played Waterloo, lost by 9 or 10, and we played who else was the other real good one? We played LeBray and beat them by 19. So those were all seeded teams and did well. But then we played 19 Division II teams. Our conference, we're the only there's one other Division III team now. We were the first year we were the only Division III team in the conference, so we're much smaller than everybody else. But by the same token, it makes you raise the bar, and it just makes it like, for us to get 7 and 9 losses, that's a lot of losses compared to the 2 prior seasons that we had 2 losses. But we're also in a different conference. But I think that conference has made us better. It's made us better coaches and better players. But it also is going to come with some, you're not going to get surprised by it. Those aren't upsets from good teams like Cullen, Lakeview, all the teams. Struthers was very good this year, and we should have beat them twice. We only beat them once, but they had a wonderful, talented group of kids. And so, and the thing is, those people all have a little more to pick from than we do. And our kids, we have very few basketball only kids. And at Canfield, we had a few more. You don't need all of them, but you need a core of a couple guys that are at least basketball first, not necessarily they can't play other sports. And when like next year, we'll have a lot of great baseball players are all getting recruited. We have some excellent football players, and it's difficult to get them together as much because we usually play 60, 65 games in June and have April, May, and July where we have small group or individual workouts with me and maybe another coach or two, depending on who's available. But that's what we do. And I wish I could just sit here and tell you we're doing as good a job as Josh is with all the Zoom stuff. And I really want to hear more about that app from him, but I'll do that another time. But we haven't done near as much of that. We do most of our communications through Remind, and I've done some interviews and as far as evaluations on with meeting with them online, and so I have done some of that. They're not working out near as much now as they were because most of them are working out on baseball for summer baseball and that kind of thing. But we will, and hopefully towards the end of this month and June, we'll be preparing for a possibility. I don't know, Josh, whatever you think. You think we're going to do anything in July or not?
Oof.
So let's talk a little bit about that. So there was an article that came out that the lieutenant governor is discussing with the OHSAA about how to open up facilities for sports because they just did probably yesterday or the day before they opened up youth sports. So they're working on that type. So that really brings a big picture that there are a couple proposals on the table that look at fall sports because right now in maybe 3 weeks they start football pretty much conditioning, and they talk about youth sports and I'll quote the article that that it says that while we have communicated that overall several occasions to our members' schools, it's created a bit of confusion since school buildings are closed by the order and some athletic facilities are inside those buildings, weight rooms, gymnasiums, and everything like that. And that's coming out of OHSAA. So you have youth sports looking to try to, hey, we want to open these facilities up. But then there was a quote from Jerry Snodgrass, which he tweeted, that he said, we are not part of making the rules that youth sports must adhere to. So I think there's a lot of confusion on open gym and everything like that. Because then someone asked Jerry, and I'll get your opinion on this, that they asked Jerry Snodgrass, the executive director, that said, has there been a decision on using high school fields, and I would assume for youth sports? And the question or the tweet that he had, and we would have to get clarification if we look into this, that says that is a decision between local health departments and schools. So I think there's a very big misconception, miscommunication through OHSAA because they've not had any communication with sports. So let me get your take on that. Well, John, we'll go to you first real quick. What are your take on sports? Because what's going to happen in fall? Are we going to have football? Is it going to move? There's a proposal that says we're going to look at winter or spring and switch baseball, softball, and then go to football. What do you think of that?
First of all, I think there will be fall sports simply because it'll be for the same reason that President Trump is relaxing, putting his plan to open things up to the economy and businesses and that kind of thing. The OHSAA certainly isn't any different. They took a beating this year. Mm-hmm. They're going to be out of existence. I'm sure Snodgrass wouldn't want to say that online, but they're going to be out of existence if they lose all of their revenue, which is where it comes from sports. And so they've already moved the girls' state tournament to Dayton next year, and the boys' state tournament is not in the Schottenstein. It's going to be in St. John's Arena, which are both arenas that we can get for a lot less money. So I think there sure going to be some modifications as far as how they do it. And then I don't know, they're talking about moving football back 3 games or maybe playing just your regular season 7 games. But if you're an independent, what does that do for you there? So bottom line is, I think there will be football. I do. I think there'll be soccer. I think all that stuff. It's just a matter of how And like, for example, if we were going to go to a team camp, how does the parent let their kid go when they're going to be, like, the team camp I go to has 800 kids there,
Mm-hmm.
and they're all eating, sleeping, and playing in a camp where there's not going to be a lot of social distancing. There's just not going to happen. How's a parent let their kid do that? And that makes it very difficult for us to run business as usual. Even if you had 4 teams come to a gym in your area, that's still the teams playing each other. Basketball is a contact sport, just like football is. I'm not sure how they're going to do it, and maybe you guys have some ideas. But I think it's almost a necessity from the standpoint of we won't have high school sports if we keep doing this. It'll be all clubs. I think eventually that's what AAU and club volleyball and club softball. I think that's kind of causing that to happen that way, anyways. But I do think that my best recollections of high school basketball is not from the AAU standpoint. And I coached that also. I would hate to see us lose that revenue and that.
Well, and I think, and let's go in South Range. Actually, they have a football team, and they have a lot of fall sports. And then we go over to Badger, where you guys don't have a football team.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you guys deal in general, anyway, with the same scenario that every high school is using? That what are you looking at, and what have you heard? Because I know we'll look into that after this about what's going on.
We just got a text message from our athletic director on Saturday, I believe it was, when the mandate came out. Excuse me, just saying that, that we're still shut down and we can't really do anything at this point. So, as far as that, we just adhere to what's going on. And as John was saying, we go down to the same camp down in Eastern Ohio. Great camp for basketball and getting better every summer. But with all those kids around, I don't know how that's going to work. I know there are some camps that are trying to push back to July to try and get stuff in, but I mean, at this point, we just go day by day and see what's going to happen. But yeah, for us, we're fortunate. We have a really good soccer team, boys and girls. We have a good cross country team, but a lot of our athletes, I think we only lose a handful of athletes that play a fall sport for our side. So we're fortunate enough not to lose a whole bunch of athletes. So, it'd be a little bit of advantage for us to be able to have a little bit of a fall to pick up on things we may have missed over the summer.
Yeah. And I think we talk about a lot of different things and what's the future going to hold? I mean, you hear different proposals going around. I know there's been a lot of different proposals. I know some, I've heard some talking with some coaches that they're already starting to plan for upcoming right now. Like, hey, we're going to be doing conditioning in July and this in August. And I've told some of them that have called me, I said, you guys got to wait because there's one proposal saying, like Coach Cullen said, that the first 3 weeks of football will be on the back end of the season. So week 4 would be your first week. So 1, 2, and 3 would actually be games 8, 9, and 10, and then we would play deep into winter, or deep into December. That would be one option. The other option they had was they were going to say football and soccer were going to be spring sports, baseball, softball were going to be in the fall. So there's a lot going on. So, and we would see that basically basketball and fall and winter sports would stay the same. So moving forward, how do you plan as a coach moving forward? I mean, with all this, we'll go to Josh real quick. How do you plan ahead? Like with everything going on in the unknowns, how do you plan as a coach to get better, to develop and get ready for this coming year if you don't know what's going to happen?
Well, I mean, for us, we have a plan on what we do. I have this will be my 5th year. In my 4 years, we haven't really changed much of what we've done. We may just push some things back if that's the case. August is a no contact period for us, so we don't do anything in August. So, we just do workouts in open gym in September and October. We start with a little bit of conditioning at the end of October, go through November until the first practice. So for us, it's just staying on that track and keep doing what we're doing, not really change a whole lot at this point until we officially see what's going to happen. Now, if they do happen to switch some things around, then we have a lot of kids who play baseball, so that would take numbers away from us if they do change it. But at this point, we just as I said before, we just take it day by day and go from there and keep doing what we've done in the past.
And Coach Collins, how do you? You've been around the game. You've seen a lot change over the last during your time as one of the best coaches in the area as well as the state of Ohio. So how do you plan and change with the game itself?
Well, the game the only people that stay in the game are people that continue to grow with the game and evolve with the game. I truly believe that. But one thing I did want to say, and before I get into that, you were talking about possibly putting football in the spring. I don't think that can happen. Football recruiting would be just devastated if that happened. They don't have AAU tournaments to look at. All they have is the regular season, and that would put them really on the way behind schedule. And think about it. It was supposed to be a 2-year plan to play football in the spring. And if they did that, what is on the third year going to do? You're going to play in the spring, then start again in July?
Yeah.
I don't know how that would work out too well for you. There's no.
It's like college. You play spring ball and then play fall. I think the proposal.
That's the only sport you're playing in college. You're not playing other things.
Exactly. Yeah. So how do you get that thing with your players to build up for this with the unknown?
Well, for example, next week on Josh's meeting we're going to have, it's about culture. And if you have a culture, you can adapt to this easier if you have a good culture established. And it sounds like he does, and I think we do. It's a lot easier for us to adapt than it is to people who don't have that culture. And they're not accountable to each other. They don't trust each other nearly as much. And we have to rely on that to make us stronger at the end of this. Because this will either do one or two things. It'll either destroy some teams or it'll make you stronger and with less, the kids will realize a sense of urgency even earlier than they do now. And I think that, it may take a while to get them, in mid-season form, that kind of thing. I don't know if we'll get a full preseason of practice, but we'll figure it out. You do what you have to do and you adjust, and that's what coaching is. It's a game of adjustments, and you go into every game with a plan. Then all of a sudden, you might have to change the plan a little bit during the game based on what the other team is doing to you, or based on how your team's playing, or whatever the case might be. And we do change a lot because we play a lot of different people. And in high school, we don't get to recruit our players. At least we're not supposed to, and I know we don't. We have to give our kids the best chance to win. So when we're playing Struthers, we're shortening the game. If you're playing Springfield, you're shortening the game. If you're playing McDonald, you're shortening the game. We can't go up and down with those teams and beat them. But if you shorten the game and make their possessions as important as our possessions, then we have a chance to win. So we've done well against McDonald. We've done well against Springfield. We've done well against those kind of teams. La Bre's another one. They're a good team. Josh will tell you. Mm-hmm. But it's just a matter of keeping your eyes and ears open, talking. I have a lot of friends throughout the state. I talk to them also and see what they're doing, and try to make sure that we're as adaptable as we can be and on point when we get started. You can't waste much time at all.
Right.
Well, and I appreciate the thoughts on both ends, and I have two questions to wrap up tonight. My first question is, Coach Collins, have you ever played Badger before?
I didn't get into this at the beginning, but I'm the worst coach in the history of Badger High School. My first year as a coach was at Badger High School. I had to.
That's why I asked the question, because I knew at the very beginning you started at Badger.
Well, first of all, I lost my sense of humor.
It was a year too soon.
It was a year. It was just that 1 year.
I played 4 sophomores, and I knew that we were going to be good. But I had to choose between a team in Michigan, a parochial school in Michigan that was 6'10", 6'8", 6'6", or Badger. And I was from Brookfield, so I said, Well, definitely. I think I'm going to stick in that area. I really like that area of the country, so I stayed there. And I end up leaving on my own accord because Brookfield secret quit, and they said, if you'll come back, we won't even open the job. And the superintendent and I had gotten in a scrape because he told this guy from another school, he observed him, he wanted him to come to Badger. He didn't come. He did come. We worked all summer. And then the guy said, well, I can't take him now. I got to do, my principal wants to hire this girl. And so I was at camp with 12 kids, and I said, I gotta go. I can't work under somebody like that. So, but I love Badger. It's a great place to live. I just golfed there yesterday. It's a great place Badger basketball's a huge deal at Badger.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the first year, the year I coached was the first year freshmen were eligible. And don't you know it, the best player, and sorry, coach, but Dale Blaney is a better player than the kid you just graduated. I don't think there's anybody in the area ever better than him. And Dale Blaney.
He was one of the best.
For me, he's the best. Anyways, I didn't play him because the boy had 2 Greyhound freshmen like that also, and he was so skinny. I said, oh, should I bring him up? I don't know. Nobody's doing it. And I didn't bring him up. And I'd see him in gym class hitting these volleyballs straight down, thinking, boy, he looks like he could really help us. Well, I didn't bring him up, and that was a mistake. But I did start 4 sophomores, and we went 1-18. The game we won against Newton Falls, they closed the school down, had a whole party the next day. I'm so embarrassed to even did that.
I love this. I love that you can give stories from way back that you're embarrassed about, John. That's what it's about. You've been coaching so long that I think you started in what year again? I'm sorry. 73. Okay. I was born in 79. So I'm 40. And I've been ref for, yeah. So, well, one day, hopefully you guys can play each other and you guys can have a great we
scrimmaged.
Yeah.
In my last question to both, yes or no answer, and the National Federation came out that they're doing a shot clock for high school basketball. Some states have adopted it. Do you like it? Yes or no, Josh?
No. I'm for. And I'll tell this quick story. We were playing a team. We were shooting. We scored 0 points in the first quarter. We scored 2 points in the fourth quarter. We were shooting 11 of 44 in the game. We finally come back, take the lead with the only bucket in the fourth quarter. We finally take the lead. The team goes down, misses the shot. We get the rebound, and we hold the ball for 5 minutes. Not kidding. We held the ball for 5 minutes. The team never came out of the 2-3 zone and just sat there. So I'm all for, hey, you got to adapt. I mean, it is what it is. But we ended up winning the game, and with the only 2 points of the fourth quarter. And no, I'm not for a shot clock.
Coach Collins?
Well, I've been fortunate enough to be at YSU for 3 years and be around the shot clock, so I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was good for the game and that kind of thing. But by the same token, Poland and South Range don't beat Struthers this year with the shot clock. You just don't do it. And so we wouldn't let them have more than 8 shots a quarter. And
you sound like the Central Catholic and Hickory Hoosiers as where the score, they just held the ball at the top of the key the whole game.
Well, Normandale, if you really want to go into the movie, he said the ball must be passed 4 times before we can shoot the ball.
Yeah, yeah, and that statement is funny because some coaches will say that to me and say, because you guys, everyone gets into the game and they'll say, okay, Tony, this is what we're going to do. So just if you see anything, let me know. And I'm like, okay. 2 times they shoot the ball and they're down the other end, and the coach is going ballistic because he's like, I said 4 times, and nothing happened. So, But I appreciate you guys coming on. I appreciate you taking the time to talk about basketball and what's going on with OHSA. I wish you the best of luck this weekend, or I should say this summer. Stay safe and healthy. And hopefully, one thing I like about this area is all the coaches talk. No one is above anyone. Everyone talks to everyone, and that's what we're here. We're here for the kids. So I appreciate the conversation. Any last minute saying? Anything you want to say?
But just going off of that, about a month ago, I started up a coaching roundtable for the coaches in the area. So every Monday at 7, we have that. It's good for coaches to get on and just talk basketball. Last night we talked about practice schedules, but we've talked about offensive philosophy, defensive philosophy. As Coach Cullen had said, next week we're going to discuss culture and building a program. So we have plenty of different discussions and good questions why coaches are in there, and if anybody wants to join, it's a good time.
Yeah, I appreciate being there. We talked a little bit with officiating and what coaches look at. So, I mean, John, anything for you?
No, I'm just grateful for whatever we have, and I think that the one thing that I will say about coaching now, how it's changed from the beginning, even though the coaches will all talk, there's not as much for fraternity as there used to be. There used to be we'd load up for a van or two, head to Duke and go to practice 2 days, and go to North Carolina and go to Chicago and go up there. We'd go to Kentucky, we'd go to Indiana, and we don't do that stuff anymore because there's so much stuff online. So I think the closeness among coaches isn't quite as good as it used to be, but Josh is doing his part to try to make that better. So I certainly appreciate that, and that's a big part of it.
Yeah, and I appreciate.
Coaches,
and I mean, as schools lose students, that in 5 years you may be losing a couple schools, merging and everything. So the more we can keep basketball and football and all the sports in general, it's just a good thing.
Right.
So,
yep.
I appreciate your time, guys. Thank you very much. You're welcome on any time. We'll talk, and I'll see you guys down the road for basketball. So God bless. Good. Stay healthy, and have a great day.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Tony.
You're welcome.
See you.